And we're back. Finnish Football Show 2019. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Wiltshire from Explore Finland. We're back after a long hiatus. We're sorry, and we will do better in 2019. And there's been a big change on Team FFS. I'm joined today by Mark from FC Suomi as normal. Hi, Mark.
Hello.
But Rich decided last year to hang up his Finnish football boots and to retire the Escape to Suomi website. So he's not here today for me to ask, what shirt are you wearing, Rich? Nor do I need to warm him. No noisy biscuits, no F-bombs. So let's take a moment to show some respect with a little bit of silence. Right, that's enough of that. Because we found someone to fill Richie's boots. Let me introduce a man who has many online personas. Each social network seems to have a different name for him. So let's ask him to introduce himself and find out how he wants to be known on the Finnish Football Show. So, who are you, new co-host?
Good evening. So yeah, you guys can call me for this purpose. You can call me Keke. That's my Finnish football pseudonym. But yeah, other people know me in this country as Keith. So whichever suits. But yeah, Finnish football, it's usually Keke because my friends in Finland. So we'll go with that.
So what is your connection to Finland and to Finnish football then, Keke?
Well, my initial connection to Finland is because of my beautiful wife. She's from Jyväskylä. So we been together quite a while now, and we was travelling to and from Finland to visit family and friends. And as I'm a big football fan, I thought I'd rather than be dragged round to relatives all the time, I'd check out the local football club. So I made my way down to Harju to see JJK. Got involved with the Harjun Pojat, and the rest is history.
Good stuff. I think we'll come back to JJK just a little bit later.
Yes.
This is FFS 21. We've got a lot of catching up to do. So in this episode, we'll look back a little bit, summarise the past few months, look at the Finnish national team in the Nations League, look at the start of the Euro 2020 qualifiers, also cover the Suomen Cup that's been played during the last few months. And I guess we'll also have to talk about Teemu Pukki ripping up the championship in England. So we'll get everyone back up to speed, and then in future episodes, we'll start working our way through the season of 2019. We're also going to try and add a few new features to the show and try and structure things a little bit as well. Let's see how that one works out. This episode is live on YouTube, so if you're watching live on YouTube, thanks for joining us. And as always, we want your input into the show. So live viewers, use the message box on the right of your screen to ask questions. I'll try and keep an eye on that while the others are doing their thing. Podcast listeners, use social media to get in touch with your feedback. Our handles are at FC Suomi for Mark, at Explore Finland for me, and at Keke Mulleri for Keke. And if you want to know the spelling of that, then it will be on the show notes for the podcast, which I will try to get out in the next couple of days. I'm a bit more organised this time, so I'm ready to get that audio published and get it out to those that want to listen to it on the podcast. So we're going to structure the show: first half, second half, injury time. That should sound familiar to everyone that's listening and watching this. So let's kick off the first half of the show with some recent news. We've planned this. We know what we're going to talk about, but I have no doubts that Mark's got something that's just broken as we've gone live to air. So let's start with the news. Mark, what would you like to say? Something a little bit about the transfers in the winter window.
Yeah, and you'll be very happy because there was breaking news, but it sort of fits in to the subject that I actually picked beforehand. So before today, Kalle Taimi, who you might remember from the Malta game last year, we scored in the 5-0 win. He's been a free agent for about two months or so, basically since the end of the last season. He was picked up today by Kups, I think. Yes, Kups. Yeah, so I think he signed a 1-year deal at Kups. I think he's 30 He's 30 now. Right back, centre back, can play like across the back line. But he was signed up today, so I'm quite happy that Khaled Daimi's actually found himself a club, and the breaking news fits into the news story that we had planned. But in terms of transfers and what's that happened in the winter window, there's a lot for us to catch up on. But I figured it might just be easier to kind of go through the list of decent moves that have happened for Huuhkajat ahead of the coming, let's say, summer season in Finland and then elsewhere around the world. So Eero Markkanen went to PSM Makassar, which is Indonesia, in the Indonesian league, and I think so far Keke he's tearing it up, right?
Yeah, he's doing all right. He's scored a couple of goals in their is it the Asian Cup or the Asian Champions League? Scored a few goals in that competition. They had like a 7-3 win, I think it was the other night. So it's a bit of a strange one. I'll get the alerts come through at all sorts of times of the day because the games are obviously scheduled to suit them, and that sort of 3 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning, you get a bleep come through. Eero scored a goal again. So it's nice to see him doing well. It was a surprise that he went there for me personally. I did hear a couple of rumours that he was on the table, but there was also Grimsby were rumoured, and there was rumours of other clubs in Sweden. But yeah, he's gone out there. There's other Western players out there. He's got a couple of Australians in his side, I believe. And yeah, so far so good for the big man. The only thing I would say about it is obviously he didn't make the squad for these recent internationals, and I'm just there's a little seed in my mind is if Rive has thought about the travelling or if him being based so far away, if that will have an effect on his national team prospects, But yeah, he can only do what he's doing, scoring goals in the league he's playing in. So we'll see what happens.
Mark's picture has gone very still on this recording, Keke. So I'm not sure if we've lost him. He might have to jump out and jump back in. So would you like to say something about what's been going on at Yiiko in the last couple of months?
Yeah, I mean, it's not been a happy time for those of us who follow Yiiko and Jyväskylä, and we're not the only ones either. There's it was announced a few weeks ago that the Yiiko's holding company actually went bankrupt. So as a result of that, they've had to. It was the holding company that held the license for the place in Kakkonen for the upcoming season. So that license no longer exists. So Yiiko have had to give that up. So they continue as a club, but they've had to reapply for entrance to the league, and they will now start this season in the Keski-Suomen region of Kolmonen.
Okay.
So we'll be playing teams like FC Blackbird and AC Barca. I think there's one who have a.
How many divisions down have they dropped? You said from sort of Kokkonen to Kolmonen. Is it literally just one division down?
No, I think it works out about 2 because they're in the regions of Kolmonen. So it's as low as you can go. No, not quite, but it's not great. I mean, the city of Jyväskylä and those supporters that I know personally from Harjunpojat, they really deserve to have a CEO or a company in charge of that club who knows what they're doing with the finances. I mean, I know it's not easy, but yeah, I've heard some inside stories about dodgy loans and all sorts of things. So, but the people who pay the price are the supporters, aren't they? Mm. But in the same week that we got that bad news, it was announced that PS Kemi went the same way. So they'd gone bankrupt. It was only a little while ago that they were playing in Veikkausliiga. They were ready to take up a license for Ykkönen, but they've gone bankrupt. And then a few days after that announcement, it was revealed that they'd been rebranded as Kemi City, and this this London. Well, I say London-based. Their website boasts offices in Kuala Lumpur, Cape Town, Sydney, Australia, and they're a. I'm not sure what sort of company they are.
Let's be very careful how we describe them, maybe.
Indeed, yes. They're, but yeah,
I think they're media strategists, technically. I think that's the thing that they call themselves. It's something like that, media strategists.
Okay, I mean, yeah, or the description I found was a sports marketing agency. So how that fits into the day-to-day running of a football club, I'm not sure. But they boast they boast Ryan Giggs as their football consultant. So we'll see if Giggsy makes his way to Lapland and gets the boys at the new Kemi City firing on all cylinders. But yeah, again, remains to be seen. But they take up a position in the northern column. So, but these guys at Red Strike have promised Veikkausliiga and European football in the next 5 years. So watch this space.
Interesting. So 2 clubs that were in Veikkausliiga very recently now dropping down sort of a few.
Yeah, three or four divisions.
Three or four divisions further down. Yeah, interesting.
I mean, the slide for you, Yiyi has been well, I say gradual, but it's been unfortunately relegation after relegation. But then obviously the bankruptcy. It was a surprise to me, but I don't think it was a surprise to too many in Jyväskylä. It's the finances. It's been no secret that the finances have been tricky for a while. They've had various. The fans have put their hands in their pockets more than once. So yeah, but interestingly, I spoke to someone who's been involved in the club previously on quite a senior level. He's no longer there, but everybody was saying sad things about the club going down and etc. But this one particular guy looked on the other side and said maybe it's an opportunity for the people who were incompetent to disappear, and now the club can rebuild itself and be a viable business as well as a football club. So we'll see.
And there's a fan base there, and the heart of the club is still beating, and that's important to know as well.
I'm sure that Harjunpojat will keep going. They're a tough bunch, so I'm sure they'll travel to all these places and won't have so far to go maybe, but yeah, they'll enjoy themselves, I'm sure.
It's a
tricky. Hey Mark, while you're back with us, what about some more of these transfers that have gone through? We nearly lost you.
No, you did lost me. I'm back on my magic yellow cable now, so I'll be all right. But it's just on the thing with clubs going bust. I mean, they've lost. Mupa went, Honka went and came back. PK35 went. So it happens with a crazy regularity. And then there was ROPS put out their financials last. Was it last week? Or I think it was actually earlier this week. And ROPS are minted, and they're minted because of 2 players. They sold Timo Stavitsky and they sold Robert Taylor last season, and I think that raked in only something like about 1 million, 1.2 million, something like that, like for those 2 fellas, and they're like they've got basically the next 5 or 10 years sorted themselves out. It's such a like a fine margin business, like it's like in Veikkausliiga.
Someone at Yiyi must have missed a trick there. Should have had a 50% sell-on fee for Taylor.
Yeah. I mean that's the crazy thing. I mean, kids in Finland they circle around the clubs and nobody keeps a. I don't think there's ever like. I mean, Eero Markkanen was there, right? That's where he grew up.
Yeah, that's where he started.
Did they get? And he went to AIK for money. He went to Boyko for money. He went to Real Madrid for money. So I don't know if they saw any of that, but they should have done.
Well, the story goes that in the last 10 years, the only time that Yiiko have been in the red, or is it the black? I don't know which one. But
black is good, red is bad.
Yeah, the only time they've been in the black is the year that Eero moved to AIK. So that tells you what you need to know, really.
Yeah. But yeah, on the subject of transfers, and now that my magic yellow wire is back on, so I think maybe it's best to just race through them. So, Juha Pirinen was the big move. He went to Tromsø, and Glenn Kamara went from Dundee to Rangers. There was a bunch of speculation about Glenn, and I mean, he's rocked up at Rangers, and now he's playing as well as he did at Dundee, it looks like he's going to boss the Scottish Premiership. Like he's going to adapt, and I reckon 2 years, 1 year, 2 years, he'll be joining Teemu Pukki in the Premier League. Apart from Camera, Berat Sadiq, he went from Cyprus to Gymnastique in the Spanish second division. Ville Alistair left Hoyko. He went to Kongsvinger, first division in Norway, as did Johannes Larksonen of Asjiko fame. He went to Sudnes Ulf. And then there's Ben Kalman. He came back from loan from Dundee, and now he's gone back out on loan to Vendsyssel, the Danish first division. Nico Hamalainen went from QPR. He played in the Desert Games in January. He went from QPR to Los Angeles and hit an absolute belter of an assist. I think it was 2 days ago.
Yeah,
like that.
last night or the night before, wasn't it?
Yeah. Absolute beauty. Like, so he's going to get regular games, which is awesome. Stavitsky's come back to Rops from, was it Cannes? No, from France. So he's back in Rops, and then inside the Veikkausliiga, Asjiko picked up Mosa, Sergei Yeremenko. So you're going back down the kind of dynamo, troublemaking midfield maestro route.
Yeah.
That worked so well when Lossa was around.
But that kind of brings me on to my news, and I think it's it's certainly not breaking news, but from the last couple of months, after a couple of challenging seasons and I think declining seasons, there were big changes at the end in the close season for Asjiko, and I'm not going to go through all those names. Obviously, Moshtag Yakubi and Sergei Eremenko coming to the club are kind of the headlines, but the thing that's noticeable is there's a lot of younger players coming into the squad. I looked at the squad, and players like Larksonen have gone. A lot of the overseas players that came in the last, let's say, year or so, seem to have moved on. Not all, but some, but quite a few of them, and been replaced by younger Finnish players, and seemingly 2 or 3 promoted from the academy up into the first team squad as well, which I think is really positive. There is a lot of emphasis put on the academy at Asjiko. There are the boys and girls teams from almost embryo up to the first team. So it's good to see those players coming through, and we all love to have one of our own in the team that we can sing about, don't we? So that's kind of interesting, and I think that's reflective of. I mean, you'll cover the Suomen Cup in a minute, I guess, Keith. But generally, the pre-season has been pretty unspectacular for Asjiko. But I wonder if that's a case of rebuilding with a young team, and that actually maybe we need to take this short-term pain for good things to come in the future. And if this team can grow together into something really useful, it might not be this season, but over the next year or two. And there was one other thing that was really interesting. At the end of last season, it was announced just before the last home game that Richie Dorman was going to retire, which is a bit of a shock. You know, I know Richie a little, know him well enough to send the odd message to and have a chat at the game and things like that. And it was quite emotional. He got a really good send-off. There were tears on the terrace and tears on the pitch. And then on the Monday, it was announced that he's the club's new technical director, and has gone from being, you know, the beating heart on the pitch to the manager's boss. So it is kind of intriguing, and I have reached out to him to ask if he'll come on here and talk to us, or maybe sit down with me and talk about how that works, because, you know, there must be a reason why he's the right person for that job, and I'd love to know what it is. So I don't know. I go into the season with optimism, but optimism that there's a young team and we need to get behind that team and help them through the next couple of seasons. So,
well, I don't know the situation personally, but it's still Alexei Yeremenko, right? Who's the head coach?
Yeah.
Right. So the one like he generally tends to build like nice interplay, short passing, technical, tactical, sort of like technical, skillful teams. And the one thing that he needs in a boss is somebody that understands football in absolute detail, because the things that got Alexei Yaremenko Senior in trouble in the past was working with suits and business guys and trying to build a philosophy or a brand or any of that stuff. It doesn't work with that guy, because he's all about balls on the pitch, balls in training, getting to know, like, getting your technique right, getting your tactics right, getting your skills right, and your development right. So in one sense, I think he's probably been brought in partly for that relationship, because also the other thing about Alexei Senior is that he's not like he doesn't particularly suffer fools, and he's not exactly easy to get along with.
That'll be easy. Well, I guess I had a message from Richie last year that he does listen to this show. So if you're listening, Richie, we will be interested to hear from you later in the year if you've got some time. We're hurtling towards halftime in the Finnish football show number 2021. Maybe we should move on to Suomen Cup, and we're going to hand this over to Keke, who's been looking into this and he's going to give everyone a bit of an update. We're actually just coming up from the group stages into the quarterfinals. So what's been going on?
I even did some research. Look at that.
For those listening on the podcast, Keke's got a piece of paper in his hand.
Yeah.
I think that might be the only wall chart of the Suomen Cup that I've ever seen. But it needs to be a thing.
So this year's Suomen Cup kicked off back in, when was it, 2016 or something like that? This season? Sorry, no, it kicked off.
I think we've gone through those silly stages of the game, the final being played a year after the competition started. So
they kicked off ages ago with the group stages for the various Veikkausliiga, Ykkönen, Kolmonen groups, and Kakkonen. The last 16 matches were played over the weekend of the 16th and 17th of March. And unfortunately, or whichever way you look at it, that saw the last remaining lower league teams eliminated. And we've resulted in all Veikkausliiga quarterfinals. So the quarterfinals will be played this coming weekend, I believe, or this coming Saturday, 30th of March. And the 8 Veikkausliiga teams are pitched against each other for a place in the semi-finals in May. So I've had a look at the fixtures, and the standouts for me are Mariehamn versus FC Lahti and Rops versus KPV, simply because both of these fixtures have already been played as part of the group stage. So IFK Mariehamn beat Lahti 1-0 in the Group A game, and KPV came away from Lapland with a 2-0 win over Rops in the Group B fixture. The other quarterfinals see Ilves. They're going to make a trip from Tampere to Espoo to play Honka. And VPS are heading to Turku to play Inter. So I've had a little look, and Ilves have been doing quite well in the Cup so far, scoring 5 with no reply in their last 2 games. And obviously Honka had a confidence boosting 3-2 win over HJK in the group stage. So that's something for them to take confidence from. Inter Turku finished runners-up in the Veikkausliiga Group A, which saw both Helsinki teams HJK and HIFK eliminated, and all 4 qualifiers from this group made it to this quarterfinal stage. VPS finished runners-up to Ilves in the Group B, and I think that they will find Inter Turku a tough opposition, to be honest. So I've done a little prediction for the semi-finalists. You guys can feel free to disagree with me if you want, but I think I've gone for the 4 semi-finalists: Inter Turku, KPV, Ilves, and I think that Mariehamn will repeat their victory over Lahti to make up the 4. So we'll see what happens, but that's what we've got. It's just nice. I mean, HJK fans won't cheer me on for saying this, but it's nice that they've dropped out for whatever reason, just so it can mix it up a bit, and let someone else lift the cup. But yeah, it was that was quite an interesting group, actually. The one that I think SJK were in that group as well, were they not? I did have a look, but yeah, obviously they were eliminated at the group stage. But yeah, that's the way I see it going. But I don't know if you guys agree or disagree. But there we go.
Yeah, just to answer your question, I'm just flicking through the tables now. So Asiko were in the same group as Robs,
There we go.
VPS and Ilves. So
Yeah.
and yeah, this was part of. I mean, they all obviously play 5 games in these groups of 6 teams, and Asiko won none, drew 2, and lost 3. All pretty close, but still, it as part of that theme of a new team being built and coming together. But yeah, and Kups as well. Both of them finished with 2 points, well off the pace of qualifying for the quarterfinals. So
Concentrate on the league. That's how the saying goes, doesn't it?
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I think at the moment it's a victory that we've come into from one season to the next with the same manager. So that gives. But you know, he came in halfway through last year, brought some players in, but it was a continuation of that same thing. So now, you know, I just really want the manager to be there for a couple of years at least and really get a chance to build something and then build on top of that some more. So yeah, let's see. We always get optimistic before the season starts.
Yeah. So for the prediction for the Suomen Cup, I think I'd have Robs over Kope there. But apart from that, I think you're bang on.
You're on, Mark. We'll see how it goes. Who got the predictions right yesterday, by the way?
We'll come to that. We'll come to that. Let's call it half time. I did have an idea about getting a whistle to blow, but I thought that might soon get very irritating. So I think we'll leave it as me waving my hands and telling you to move on to the next thing. Half time. We came up with a new feature. Mark, would you like to explain your new feature, Yasilla Sipuli?
Yeah, Yasilla Sipuli. Yeah, so for anybody that's been in Finland or with a Finnish person, a non-native Finn that's been with a Finnish person for any length of time, you'll have probably heard the phrase Yasilla Sipuli before. It means, and that's an onion, or like an onion, or with an onion, depends how you do it. It's the basic. The translation has nothing to do with onions. It means like it's just the way it is. Yasilla Sipuli. That's an onion. And so we decided to take that concept and then see if we could apply it to a couple of phrases in Finnish that you'll get to use to shout at the telly with when you're watching and sound like a true natural born Finn. So I think every episode from now we'll try and bring up a word or a phrase that has that kind of that feeling at heart. So this one, the first one, is something that I hear too often. It's kiva. So the Finnish word kiva means nice. It's like kiva. It's very nice. But in football, if someone is on your team shouting at you, kiva, kiva, it's a combination of kiiniva, which is like close him down, the literal translation. So when you're watching the telly and you can see Puru Soiri meandering back after having scored a goal, but not quite close enough to his runner, you can scream at the telly, "Kiva! Kiva!" and that'll get Puru to come back and track his man and close him down.
This is really useful. I don't spend a lot of time watching football in the pub in Finland. Mostly I watch it at home, but it's good to pick these up. And if anyone listening has got a phrase that is a favourite of theirs or that one of their friends uses all the time and it drives you nuts, then let us know. You can find us on social or on the Finnish Football Show Facebook group. So come on there and sort of connect with us and let us know what you would include in the new feature, Yasilla Sipuli.
Well, here's one that hopefully we never have to hear again. But do you remember the "Jos on löysä, on löysä"?
Oh, Jos on löysä, yeah. That's
okay, what is it?
That Miksu. It was Miksu's quote. I think it's an older Finnish quote from before, but at least the first time I heard it, Jos on löysä, niin se on löysä. Yeah, and that's like if it's loose, then it's loose.
Or yeah, limp or
Limp.
or
Yeah, limp. Yeah. If it's limp, then it's limp. And it's yeah. Well, I think I understand the footballing application, which is the guys should get back on the ball and then onto the game. But Keke, you can have a crack at the social context of it.
I wouldn't like to say, but yeah, that one's now been consigned to history with the Christmas tree. So we hopefully don't have to listen to that again.
Then let's confine the halftime break to history and move on to the second half, and let's move on to the Huuhkajat, the Finnish national team. Let's take this maybe a little bit chronologically, Mark, and I'm going to go back about 2 years where we first heard about this Nations League competition, and you were a bit sceptical. I remember.
I was very unhappy.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting. I liked the idea of national teams playing against sides that were more matched to them ability-wise, and I remember at the start of last year, I mean, the amount of times last year I had to explain to Finns what is the Nations League. But what it meant is that by the time it all started, I understood it, and then you'd hear these muppets on the radio or on other, journalists on other podcasts, much more professional podcasts, going, "Oh, it's so confusing. I don't understand it." It's like, well, if you read about it and if you talk about it and if you explain it to people a bit, it's not that confusing. And it meant that Finland played, was it 10 games against 5 other teams in their group.
No, we had 6 and 3. I think we had three other teams. It was Estonia, Hungary, and Greece.
That's it. Oh, it was. Sorry, yeah, no, you're right. It was groups of 4. That's right.
Yeah,
and it went really well, didn't it?
It did go really well. It went shockingly well. I mean, it was yeah. I mean, I think we had a nice run of games. I think before anybody roughly knew what this was, Finland managed to hit the ground running with a win against I think it was Hungary first. Was it Hungary first? No, I think did we beat? I think we beat Hungary and Greece, and then we had 2 games against Estonia. Yeah, and then before anybody really knew what was going on, we were like 6 points clear of the group. So it was I think Kanerva got it right. We had the home games at the Ratina and home games in Turku that were tough affairs. Like they were for the purists, let's say. But one thing that I do like about it, which I've often kind of complained about, is that it was really good for the mentality, right? Every game mattered in that. When you've got 4 teams in a group, every single game mattered. And even like in the Greece away game, I think it was that we'd win the group if we didn't lose, if we lost by 2. So as long as we lost by only 1 goal, we were fine. We had the last game off basically against Hungary. And you could see the sort of concentration, the dedication, and normally in those kind of competitive environments, the heads go down, we lose sight, we lose concentration, and we suffer for it. But this time, this team looks like it can withstand pressure. Like it looks like it can deliver. So
yeah, I was really disappointed with the Greece game because I felt that they were okay. It was away, so we front loaded with the home fixtures, won those. And then one away to Estonia as well. So it was essentially in the bag, and it just felt like the air got let out of the balloon a little bit for those last 2 games, and that we won it, but it could have been a little bit more.
It's very Finnish, so you get to win it, but you don't get to enjoy it.
Yeah, I've been here too long, obviously.
It did feel a bit like job done, foot off the gas, didn't it?
Yeah, I think that's true.
But I think that's what Kanerva does, though. I mean, like he's like he's a 1-0 kind of guy, and I think that the Greece game was a 1-0 defeat is enough. And I mean, we shut up. We were 1-0 down, and then on I think 60 minutes, shut up the shop and just said, "Screw it, we're not going to play," and we held out. So
let's hold on for a 1-0 defeat.
It's frustrating, but it won the group, so you can't really complain.
No, that is true.
And then my big complaint about the the Nations League was that you don't get to play any big teams, and we do promoted. Yeah, and Germany got relegated from League A, and I guarantee it. This is so for the as in terms of predictions. It's nailed on. We'll end up in the same group as Germany in the next iteration of the league in League B.
On another
Yeah,
3-3.
and this is the thing, isn't it? It's in 2 years' time that this restarts again.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure. I do understand because I've read about this and I've listened and talked about it. That we've got the semi-finals and the final for the overall winner coming in June, which includes England, and then after the qualifiers for the Euro 2020 competition, we kind of revert back to the Nations League standings. And there are some playoffs based on the positions in the Nations League. And I think predicting any more than that is a little bit pointless at the moment until you see who qualifies for the Euro 2020. But my question is, when it all starts up again in 2 years' time, and Finland goes from the Group C or Pool C or whatever up to Pool B, do all the teams in Pool B then get shuffled again into new groups and it goes from there.
Yeah. So we'll get into a 3 or a 4 team group. Again, in that pot of teams we could play is Germany,
Croatia.
Did Sweden go up? I think did Sweden go up or come down? There was Germany, Croatia. There's I think Denmark are in there. There's a lot of
interesting. There's a lot of interesting games. That's the way we need to look at it. But it does start to become interesting. It's less seeded than it was before because it's all based on how these teams perform. So it'll be interesting to see who can climb up through the tables and who goes sliding down through the tables.
I mean, they're tougher games because you've been promoted, aren't they?
Yeah,
That's the format and promotion and relegation. So if you're lucky enough to be promoted, you're going to face tougher opposition. So it's and facing. I enjoyed the Nations League for a couple of reasons. First of all, because it's nice to see international teams playing competitively. Rather. I mean, why it's all very nice going off to Italy or Germany to take part in Bastian Schweinsteiger's goodbye party, but we might as well be out there playing competitive football, so that the guys have they can raise their game, And now, hopefully, what with the promotion and playing against better opposition, that will raise the game further. Plus, I had a cracking time in Tallinn away as well, so that was.
Tallinn. Oh dear. It was a long trip and it was absolutely brilliant. Pukki scored, but Pukki's winner was what? It was
92nd minute.
Jesus.
Couldn't have been better.
And you two Muppets both went there and were within the same postcode as each other, but couldn't manage to get together and shake hands at least.
We did text each other.
Yeah, I knew exactly where it was, but then I couldn't get there, and it was just it's a sort of the thing about a 92nd minute winner after a 12-hour journey is that plans go a bit. They go
so it was the journey that did it for you, was it?
The journey, the environment, just everything just sort of went. It just went.
There was we had lots of cock on that. Ale cock on that trip as well.
It was full of ale cock.
And I think what you said, Keke, is true that the competitive games. And then I actually heard, and I think it was on TalkSport, and it was Mike Graham who said something like, "What do we want these silly Nations League pointless competition for when we can have friendlies to try out new players?" And I was just like, No, you so missed the point. And I think I said this to you.
Oh,
is he gone?
He's disappeared for a minute.
Looks like it.
Anyway, so Tallinn away was a great trip. I've got a little piece about it coming out in the next issue of Stand Fanzine. So if you can have a look at that, that documents my experience in Tallinn. But Mark's back. What were you saying, Mark?
Did you lose?
We lost you for a second.
He's got the gremlins. You got the gremlins.
Oh, did you? just I think, and I'll say it again because I like the sound of my voice, that this attitude about it's is a friendliest to test new players. It's this same little island mentality in England that led.
He's going to say the B word.
You better not. I'm not doing. I'm not here for that.
He's gonna say the B word in a
It's
minute.
not. Hang on, we've got to stop him.
Well, he's pulled his own cable out, so it doesn't really matter.
Good. You weren't about to. Mark, are you back? Oh, he's gone. I think it's. You're not allowed to say the B word. I'm not.
Not putting up with that.
I'm not doing it. Not here. This is the Finnish football show. This is my solace.
But the Nations League, it did coincide with Teemu Pukki's fantastic form in England. You know, like he was the man, Johnny on the spot every game. A little 1-0. You know, you could almost put your mortgage on 1-0 Pukki for most of those games.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he delivered, and he did look. I mean, he hit the championship season just focused, you know, just absolutely ready, and he's on fire. He's massive news, isn't it? You know, he's especially because he had that spell in Scotland, so people in Britain were aware of Pukki. I mean, the thing I struggle with is the how bitter the Celtic fans seem to be that he's doing well in England. Well, look, if there's a Celtic fan that ever gets to hear this or anywhere, Teemu Pukki, when he was signed for Celtic, was signed from Schalke as a kind of sort of second striker, right? When he was young, he was that sort of nippy. I think he was brought in to be the understudy to Raul at Schalke, right? So he was supposed to be like nippy, tricky, quick on his feet. They brought him into Celtic. They put Georgios bloody Samaras on the wing, and he humped balls into the centre for Pukki to try and win headers against two centre-backs in the Scottish League, in the Scottish Premier League. It was the most ridiculous usage of Pukki that I've ever seen. It was the Ronnie
Dyler years, wasn't it?
Yeah. Was it?
I'm sure it was.
I think Lennon signed him. Okay. and then left, and then Dahlia came in, and then he kind of inherited it. But it was just shoddy. Like it was like they didn't know who he was when they went, like, or what kind of player he was when they bought him. So for any Celtic fan that gets bitter about how good Teemu Pukki is now, it's because it's really simple. He's getting the ball to his feet, right?
So he's big news because he's top scorer in the championship. I think he's got 24 goals in 35. He's got 9 assists as well. So he's linked play and his assists are there. Finnish football fans have always known there's a player in there, and his record isn't too bad. You know, across his clubs, he's averaged 1 in 3 at most clubs. So and it's just nice that he took that form into the national team. But what I found interesting reading about all this, his transfer to Norwich, is whether you believe it or not, is that him and his people, his representatives, agent, whatever you want to call it, they basically looked at clubs and came up with how Norwich play, Norwich's style, and thought that it would be a good fit both ways. So not Norwich scouted Pukki, but Pukki scouted Norwich.
It's the next. I think I've read a bit about this because it's something similar to what I do. It's called football analytics, and what they do is they try and track exactly that specific player style, specific player orientation, specific team style orientation. And then they try to work out which players fit into which systems, and then try to match them up in a market. And that's the guys that have tried to make this happen for Deme. And if it's true, it worked. I mean, I think though, I mean, if I'm right, I mean, if it's so, the thing that doesn't somehow smell right about that one is that the Norwich's number 1 striker at the start of the season was Jordan Rhodes.
Yep.
He was the nailed on. Pukki was brought in to roughly try and play wide, and he got a couple of chances in the middle, started scoring goals, and they just which is brilliant management. just, if he's scoring goals, keep him in the team. But I don't think he was. I don't think when they bought him, I don't think they bought him to be this guy. But he's doing just.
He you would have banked on him putting away that chance against Italy, wouldn't you? The just the other night.
Yeah. What, it was a 1-on-1. It was.
The form he's in. You would have banked on him.
That's what. The Lod's cross and his reaction hit. It's one of those ones you don't really have he hasn't got a choice. He hits it from the angle that he hits it at, and you would have put money on it, but it's it's one of those ones he doesn't have time to think about it or do anything with it. He's